everybody, welcome back. We are the Video Store Junkies. We all just recently watched a film at Bill's suggestion, and we are going to talk about this amazing viewing experience that we had and what we thought about this amazing film, which is Frankenstein's Daughter from 1958. Oh, Bill,
Woohoo!
what made you think about recommending this? recommending this movie?
Whenever I'm doing work in the house or cooking or something, I usually just go to YouTube and let the algorithm take me away and make suggestions. And it's just like my mind; it's all over the place. And then I saw Frankenstein's Daughter, and it said something like in beautiful HD upload. I'm like, wow, because I always remember seeing it in kind of a crappy copy, so maybe it'll improve it. And I started watching it, and it took me back. It took me back to creature features in the 1970s. It's crazy when you think about it. 1958. So when I was watching this in 1970 something, it wasn't that old a film. It was just
Oh, it's true, yeah.
yeah. 1958 wasn't that long ago. Well, now this film's almost 70 years old. And it's still fresh as a daisy. It still looks like a film from another time. When I was watching in the 1970s, I didn't think, wow, this was ripped from today's headlines. No, this looked like an old horror movie, the kind they showed on TV. It's endured.
Yes.
I don't know, watching it now, it is interesting. There are things you pick up that you didn't pick up before. Like, boy, people were date rapey back in the 50s.
Women had no sense of self-preservation.
No, the women just took it like this was to be expected. Oh, this guy who's boarding at my uncle's house is hitting on me again, and every time he mixes me a drink, I pass out. Just another Thursday.
Even though it tastes terrible, I'll just guzzle the next one he gives me.
Oh my God, yeah, seriously. It's like, oh, I think I got the one that didn't have sugar. It tastes medicinal.
Well, also remember why did they pick a woman's brain for the monster?
Because women will just do anything a man says. We're very submissive, as every man knows.
Right.
Has ever dealt with a woman ever.
So Shelley came in during the last 15 minutes of this, and I was explaining that to her, and I said, "Do you think it was like this really kind of progressive commentary?" She said, "No." She said that's just how they thought back then.
No, because he was right. He tells the monster, kill that guy that's been nothing but nice to you. And the monster's like, okay, yes, master. We should probably explain to the nice people what the premise of Frankenstein's Daughter is. No, this is not a daughter of Frankenstein. However, it's funny I should say that because the makeup man was under the impression that's exactly what was going on. So it's about Dr. Frank, played by the absolutely wonderful Donald Murphy, who I'm watching this guy, I'm like, well, I feel like I've seen him before, but then I look up his stuff and not really. He is just this oily, maniacal, smarmy, smirking, smartest guy in the room, dickhole, who is actually not Dr. Frank. He's Dr. Frankenstein, but that's a big secret.
That was so amazing. Dr. Frank. Wink, wink.
Winkety wink. Like, keeps that under his hat, but he's up to the, he's basically using Dad and Grandpa's, notes with modern science, by which we mean test tubes full of dry ice, to up the ante, but once again manages to make a really ugly monster. He's working with an old scientist, who's that? Felix Locker, we've seen a lot of stuff. He's a Star Trek guy. Who's a doddering old fool who's come up with some kind of, he describes it as like an elixir that will cure everything, basically cure everything. But what it really does, it works fine on the inside, but on the outside, it turns you into a monster. which Donald, unbeknownst to the doddering old fool, has been experimenting on his niece, the lovely Sandra Knight, and turns her into a really great monster. Now, you guys were telling me you knew you were in for a good ride early on, right?
Oh, early on.
She shows up less than a minute in, and I was sold. I messaged Renee. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm down with this, definitely.
Oh, it's so good.
How would you describe her as a monster?
Oh boy. Well, it's funny because they asked a gal in the movie shortly after, how would you describe her? And she described her completely inaccurately.
Susie, what did she look like exactly?
Well, her skin was almost blue and cracked and wrinkled, and her nose was all sunken in. And it was just awful. Her mouth,
Oh my God, she reminds me of a cartoon character that I meant to look up. I can't think of what her name was, but there's like the big hairy eyebrows. It's not a unibrow, but if you think about it, it sort of was because they're just so gigantic.
Yeah.
Her big ducky teeth. But it sort of had that vibe to it where it was like, oh man, if only they took off her glasses and got her some braces, she'd be cute.
Yeah. That big
Pluck those
googly
eyebrows.
eyes. Yeah, the eyebrows are
Oh,
killer.
but the googly eyes were great when that like it morphed over time.
Right.
That was amazing. Yeah.
That was when she was in the bathing suit, right? Wasn't that the bathing suit version?
The bathing suit version was that was amazing. That
monster
was my
in a bathing
favorite.
suit.
Yeah, monster in a bathing suit. Just running down the street with like heels, those little kitten heels.
Oh, that's right. I
That's
forgot
what you
about
do.
that.
Yeah, that's what you do when you're a lady going to the pool.
Yeah. I will say this movie subverted some of the tropes. Like in most of these movies, the cops refuse to believe that there's a monster, despite the absolute preponderance of evidence that there's a monster on the loose. But as soon as she shows up and basically just goes boogada to her best friend, the next day the headlines are "Female Monster on the Loose." And the cops, as soon as they see her, and keep in mind what she's doing, she's ugly and she's out in public. They start shooting at her.
Yeah.
They're not very good shots.
She did injure that one woman. That one woman did have some blood on her head now.
Yeah, I guess.
But yes, you're right. They did. They just shooting at this woman wearing a bathing suit and a bathrobe.
Yeah, trigger happy. And not much comes of this. Sandra, she gets turned into a monster twice, I think, and then, but as long as she's not drinking roofies from the evil, Dr. Frankenstein, she's fine. Like at the end, there's no ill effect. I thought for sure they were going to stick in, the end, or is it? As she suddenly looks in the mirror and there's the googly eyes again. But no, she's fine. However, she probably would keep on turning into monsters because this woman will not turn down a drink.
Oh,
and she's hit on by every guy in this movie except for her uncle, thank God. Even the squirrely old assistant to Dr. Frankenstein is like giving her roses and just like, ew.
Oh, that was so funny when her friend came over to confront her, like, oh, you're just taking everything and you want to be the monster too, and you probably have that guy wrapped around your finger. And she says, well, I'm not gonna argue. Like, oh, no, bitch. It's like, okay then. Clearly.
That was her friend Susie, right? The one who eventually.
Yes.
Oh, so Dr. Frank takes her out, paws on her like she's a cat toy, and then she's like blowing him. I don't know. She did to make her boyfriend jealous or something.
Wait.
He cut himself off in the middle of that sentence.
Blowing him? What? Wait, I missed this.
The off part.
Blowing him off, for God's sake.
Okay. I was like, she's blowing him.
1958.
I'm like, holy cow! I know she was a Playboy playmate, but still,
Was she?
she was. Yeah, she was a centerfold, like 1957, 1958. Yeah.
1957. So by centerfold, we mean that she like had her shoes off and.
Yeah, a little bit more chaste than they became later.
Hey, you don't get to be in a movie of this quality just by auditioning. I don't know what. I'm trying to think what else she did. Let me just look up here. Sally Todd as Susie Lawler. They could have just called her Sally Todd. She passed away recently. Passed away in 2022.
Oh.
Oh, she was in some good stuff. The Unearthly and well. Here's one that you would be proud to see on the marquee if you had enough letters and a big enough marquee. The Saga of the Viking Women and Their Voyage to the Waters of the Great Sea Serpent.
Ooh.
Actual title.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. It's got a lot of Viking women and very little sea serpent.
Ah.
It probably says something about me that was a disappointment.
Oh, it was directed by the late Roger Corman.
Great
Oh,
Roger
wow.
Corman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he made it to 98, so
And he even got an Oscar, too, so.
Oh, good for him.
he lived long enough to pretty much be recognized as the guy responsible for half the people currently in Hollywood. And you can never really say for sure, what if this person hadn't been here? It's like, without Roger Corman, there wouldn't have been any drive-ins. I'm pretty sure there would have been drive-ins and there would have been drive-in movies. But they wouldn't be the ones that we got. And he just made some great stuff that has stood the test of time, as has Frankenstein's daughter.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really was expecting something, kind of crazy and wacky, but like in a not great way. But like, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Well, so it gets crazier and crazier. So you think, okay, so here's Dr. Frankenstein, and here's this girl that he's turning into this, crazy Brooke Shields eyebrow, with Billy Bob teeth monster and all. I guess that's the metaphorical daughter. But no, he's got a body that he's building, and he sends his assistant out for a head. He comes back with a hand. Like, just come back with nothing at all, rather than something that is I'll just sew this on the shoulders. This will be interesting. Smack. What's wrong with you?
At least Igor came back with an actual brain, albeit a bad one, but he came back with an actual brain. This guy's like, hand? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Dr. Frank runs over the trollop, apparently backed over her face 15 times. Because, so here's the fun part. Here's the funny behind-the-scenes bit. They never gave the makeup man a script. And he was also under the impression that Sandra Knight was the daughter of Frankenstein. So when they said, okay, go make up the Frankenstein monster, and they gave him Harry Wilson. And Harry Wilson is very much a guy. He's more of a guy than most guys. And in fact, he was, and this was his own interpretation of it, he billed himself as the ugliest man in Hollywood.
Oh my God.
Oh,
it's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not a handsome man. He may have had a mild case of acromegaly, not as much as Rondo Hatton, but it's one of those things where a little is enough. He's definitely a guy. So he made him up as a Frankenstein monster. And then they brought it out on the set. Again, this movie was made in 6 days. When you're making a movie in 6 days, you're directing a movie in 6 days, you're just going through page after page. You don't have time to like go in the makeup room and check to see how the Frankenstein monster is going. But you probably should. Because when it came out, they're like, you realize this is supposed to be a woman, which came as a total shock to the makeup guy and a big shock to Harry Wilson. Who wasn't aware that he was playing a woman. So the makeup guy, who I thought did a pretty good job, and is actually, I've got a slide, he worked on a lot of good stuff. Harry Thomas was the makeup guy. He did the best he could. He took some lipstick and smeared it all over its mouth. And I guess they put it in a suit, so you I don't know if it has breasts. It's definitely stocky. And
no, it doesn't. It's not. It shouldn't have breasts because the body was male. It was. They were like, oh, we're going to put a female head on a male body. That was.
How was that supposed to work? And if you look at the poster is totally. He's bare chested. He's not. Whoever did the poster was also unaware that the monster. It just didn't work. It did not work.
I thought she looked lovely in the lipstick.
I wonder if they stuck in that part about it's a male body with a female head just after they saw the monster. Like, we got it. We got some splaining to do here.
I was so disappointed. I was really wanting to see Sally's head on this big body. I was like, I was so, because he starts off in shadow, like the face is in shadow. I'm like, oh, this will be kind of cool. Like her head on because it looks like it doesn't quite fit. And I was like, oh, that doesn't quite look like her.
This is one of the ugliest Frankenstein monsters ever. And admittedly, because they started with a pretty good canvas here, but I don't know, it's like if someone passed out and fell into a Velveeta pizza or something, and then lifted their face up. And, it looks nothing like the girl.
I'm wondering if the whole sequence. Now, granted, it was only done in 6 days, but I wonder if the sequence with the other young woman was because remember they said, "Oh, the medicine causes all this disfiguration," and so I wonder if they're like, "Oh fuck, we need to write something in. All right, can you throw together some really shitty makeup for her, and we'll have her get transformed a couple times." But or is that just like giving him too much credit for trying to save it?
That's probably giving him too much credit, but I love the makeup on her. I wish she was in the movie more. She was way scarier.
No, I liked hers.
She was like John Hurt in Altered States.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She had been in the tank too long.
Right. So the monster is brought to life with some pretty subpar electrical effects, and interesting interpretation. He kind of walks stiff-legged uses karate to kill people, which is
so bizarre. Like, I'm just gonna oddly put my hands on your shoulders, and now you're dead. Okay.
Well, because she was so super strong. That's why.
Yeah.
Yep. That was it.
So he kills off some of the people that are in his way, and takes out the cop or two, and takes out his assistant, who suddenly gets all moral about things. Like, that's not what we agreed to. Like,
they were having a bonding moment.
Yeah.
He even hesitated slightly, like, "Oh, he is my friend. Maybe I shouldn't kill him." Okay. You insisted, and I'm a submissive woman.
Why did this guy suddenly have this dark moment of the soul where he's like, is what we do evil? Yes. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
You're the guy who was supposed to come out with a severed head and brought back a hand. I mean, these were not donated. You're not a good guy. Okay. Whatever. And then we get to the ending. I gotta say, the ending is what's always stuck with me. Dr. Frankenstein dies. I think was really good for 1958.
Oh yeah, his talk about falling into Velveeta, his melting face was great.
Yeah. So the hero, as it is John Ashley, who people should know. John Ashley was in a lot of cool stuff. John Ashley is a horror icon. He did a lot of the Bikini Beach movies. Okay, they're horrible, but they're not horror. But then he went to the Philippines and did the blood movies: Mad Doctor of Blood Island, Beast of Blood, The Twilight People.
Oh, wow.
Great stuff. He was, and also he became a producer. So this guy, no great shakes as an actor. He's pretty terrible in this. Not that he's given a whole lot to work with. He went and became a producer, which to me, that's smart. You're only going to be a young, good-looking guy for so long, but you can become a producer and rip off new and upcoming young, good-looking guys for the rest of your life. He was in How to Make a Monster. He was really in a lot of good stuff, a lot of fun stuff. He is trying to, protect his girlfriend, who, has just been ordered. The monster's been ordered to kill them both, and picks up a bottle of, acid. It's labeled acid. Do not throw in face. And he does. He throws it right at the monster, but he sucks at it, misses it completely. Wouldn't you know it? Hits Dr. Frank right in the puss. And we get a wonderful shot where he, buries his hand in his face in his hands and is screaming. And then the shocking part, he looks up and his damn face is dissolving. All right, it's pretty good. I mean, it's a shocking scene, and then he falls and dies. I love that, man. I remember watching that at the late night show on TV. And it's like, whoa, that made me sit up and take notice. But of course, this was before VCRs or anything. You're just like, did that just happen?
Yeah,
and
man.
So back then, things got embedded in your brain because you were like, I'm trying to remember it, and remembering it, trying to replay it in your mind is creating memories. More so than if you can just rewind it and watch it again. Watching is kind of passive. But creating images in your head, and I honestly believe that horseshit that I just said is true. That, because I look at some of these movies that I have not seen in, we're talking scores of years, there's a few things, images or scenes that I really remember. And when I do catch up with them again, this could be 40 years or more since I've seen them. When I see that scene, it is 100% exactly the way I remembered it. I cannot remember what I had for dinner yesterday. I'm not being funny here. I have to think about it.
Right.
Why would I waste brain cells on that? But somehow, that scene, watching it again, it's like, boy, that scene holds up. It's exactly the way I remember it. And, the makeup effect is not bad. It's obviously, tissue paper and latex, but that's how I do it now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It was good.
And then, how would you describe how the monster dies?
He burns up.
Yeah,
Catches
but
on fire.
how does that happen?
Well,
Is it a villager with a torch heroically throwing himself at the monster? Is it,
see, I was leaning over and I was looking at something. What were you looking at? Like, what was she looking at? I was trying to, for a second, I was like, does she see her own reflection? Like, what's happening? Does she
I think
so
she
like
was
her?
looking at Dr. Frank dissolving on the floor.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because
Oh,
all
there
of a
you
sudden it was like, I'm on fire now. Oh my God.
And she bumps into a Bunsen burner that's just sitting there. I should show this film for like lab safety in class.
Yes. Yeah.
And then her arm's on fire, and when she tries to, because a Frankenstein monster's a pretty blunt instrument. I mean, to a hammer, every problem's a nail. So she just starts hitting it with her other hand. Then her other hand catches on fire. And then she's just like hitting it with her face. And before you know it, she's just completely engulfed in flame. And
If only he had used a man. No, I'm just kidding.
or if only he had maybe if he had clothed her in something with a little more asbestos in it. It was the 50s. As opposed to oily rags, I guess she was wearing. I've never seen anyone go up like that.
That's actually also thinking about how impressive that was. That was like a full body burn in 1958.
I was looking at it, and I'm pretty sure that there was some double exposure.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think you're right. There was some full body burn, and then when the body's on the floor, twitching around, that was pretty obviously a dummy or something, because it was cool the way the legs and the arms move, but they kind of move like there's a stage hand there.
I don't know. I bought it.
But it was like just subtle enough.
Oh, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. But what a lame way to take out your monster.
Killed itself because it's a doofus.
It was all accidental. All of it.
Yep.
Speaking of that lab, it's like one of the tropes from those like late 50s, early 60s movies where the lab is in the basement of a suburban home. And I absolutely love that. It reminded me a lot of Brain That Wouldn't Die in terms of that same kind of thing. Which you got the mad scientist looking to do this with a body and a head, and you have the secret lab in the basement of my suburban tract house. So, I guess they were more popular back then. They all got converted to fallout shelters.
Yeah, right. It's true. You never see like Reddit videos of people discovering like closed off science labs in their basements or something.
If you live up north, you might be lucky enough to find out your house was part of the Underground Railroad. That can be cool. If you're really lucky, there's no skeletons in there.
Oof, yeah.
Or if you're lucky, you mean.
Well,
free skeleton.
Yeah, free skeleton. Now I can play the xylophone. How about the director?
Yes, Kuna. What was his first name? Richard Kuna?
Richard Kuna. I think that's pronounced right. He made, from what I can see, 6 films. One of them was an English version of some German film. One's called The Girl in Room 13, which has a lovely review that I think really sums up the body of his work, which was terrible movie, great fun. Which I think is, But the ones that he's known for, he starred with Giant from the Unknown, which is a fairly dreary affair about a giant conquistador who's buried in the ground, but he's woken up by a bolt of lightning.
Huh.
Yeah. And he goes around, strangles people and stuff. Okay. Anyway. Followed by my favorite. It may not be his highest rated, but it's my favorite, She Demons, which is like one of those men's magazines from the 50s brought to life where, a beautiful girl her, the love interest and some, spare wheel end up on an island where Nazis are turning beautiful native women into she-demons.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh.
One of the Nazis has a wife who walks around with a mask. Gee, I wonder why. And yeah, this is great stuff. Of course, they stopped the movie dead at some point to have a dance going. Just like this movie
my
gets
God.
stopped dead
Yes.
by those wonderful rock and rollers. And then he did Missile to the Moon. Missile to the Moon, which is just terrible. Terrible.
Is there a giant creature though?
There's a giant spider.
Hey.
I'm in.
And a bunch of moon girls.
No.
So
Yeah, those she demons. Is the she demon sort of reminiscent of Frankenstein's daughter?
kinda.
Act 2.
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's big, and that's the thing. His movies, they move. They bang, bang, bang. You're not bored.
They move.
They move. Not all movies move. A lot of crap movies from that time. Just okay. I got to fill up 90 minutes. Let's have them walk up the mountain, and then there's like 10 minutes of walking up the mountain scenes. I don't think this one is particularly brilliantly composed. The cinematography is adequate, and he was a cinematographer, so he made sure that was good. I mean, the fact that this new 4K version or whatever looks as good as it does, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. I mean, they had to start with a reasonably decent looking film to have it look this good. I thought he did a pretty good job with that. But as far as I was like watching it. Look, this guy's made more feature films than I have, but I'm like, hey, I know about the concept of the over-the-shoulder shot. I don't know why he didn't use it more often for a movie that's pretty talky.
But the thing is, like, actually, that was Shelley usually doesn't comment on like how a film's shot, and she came in at the end. And when the cops are confronting Dr. Dr. Frankenstein, there's a shot where he's pouring a drink, and you have a mirror. And you can see the two cops in the mirror, like, so you're looking at him and he's talking to them. And then you see like just sort of the back, and it's really kind of a neat shot. And Shelley pointed that out. She's like, that's actually pretty good. So,
Yeah,
I mean, the fact
good.
that it actually something that she noticed, because again, she usually goes, I don't usually pay attention to that kind of thing. So
It does have its
Yeah.
moments. But again, it was shot in 6 days. I mean, the fact that it's not just a bunch of medium shots and close-ups and nothing else, is to its credit. So I want to point out John Ashley, so he did the acting thing and did that for, made a good name for himself. But then once things started slowing down in the 70s, and he went into producing. Now, he produced a number of his Philippine movies and went on to produce and probably made a good bit of coin from the A-Team.
oh wow, I didn't realize that.
He was also the narrator of the A-Team.
Oh.
But yeah. Well, yeah. So when he does the narration, he ramps up the Ted Baxter voice,
Yeah.
So good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. And then when he's like, it's me, Johnny Bruder. It's like,
Oh,
boyfriend. It's the boyfriend guy.
yeah. No, me. Oh, we got to mention Sandra Knight, who plays when she's not turning into bushy eyebrow McGoofy teeth, is a very attractive woman.
Mhm.
Is probably best known. She made a few cool horror movies. Tower of London with Vincent Price, Bloodbath, which is one of my favorites because the story behind it is just so insane. But she's best known for The Terror.
Oh wow, okay.
The infamous, and once again, Roger Corman. She's the woman, the only woman in this inexplicable movie. Made by Roger Corman, directed by like 5 different people, has Boris Karloff and a young Jack Nicholson, who was so taken with his leading lady, they married. And she was Mrs. Jack Nicholson for a while.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, probably has some stories to tell.
She's the only woman he ever married?
Oh, I doubt that. Well, you know what? I can't say that.
No,
for
he
sure.
never married Angelica Houston. They were just
He
together
never did.
forever.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she was, man, she must have broke his
Maybe
sweet little heart.
Sandra took him for all he was worth, and he's never gotten over
Yeah.
that. Listen, she knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
So she's pretty cool, and I like her in this. I mean, she's not knocking it out of the park. I mean, the only actors who really work are the old guys. The mad Dr. Frankenstein and his creepy assistant. They're great. They're terrific.
Yeah.
And one other actor in here went on to some note. Robert Dix, who was one of the police detectives.
Okay.
Which one was he?
I don't know. I can't tell one guy from another.
The tall one or the short one?
Yeah, the one who got killed, or
The one that answered the phone or the one that didn't want to get manhandled?
Jeez, you're killing me here.
because one of them seemed really familiar.
So the elderly uncle was in some good stuff. He
Yeah, I liked him. He was very.
he was in Star Trek, Mission Impossible, The Munsters, I Dream of Jeannie. There was a time in the 60s and 70s and up into some of the 80s where you could be a working actor in Hollywood and put food on the table and send your kids to private schools just by doing these episodic TV shows. They're always looking. Love American Style was always looking for at least 10, 12 actors per episode. And you could do fine.
Yeah.
I like that the character was willing to go rip off Big Pharma. That was his thing. He was stealing chemicals from his former workplace. So that he was a hero in my book.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a secret in this movie.
Oh, I love it.
He was actually another favorite of mine, which I'm sure is terrible, called Curse of the Faceless Man. This is one of those aforementioned, haven't seen it in scores of years. And it was great because the monster is one of those plaster statues from Pompeii.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
And speaking of sucky endings, it ends. So like all monsters, he lurches around and picks up the cute girl and is carrying her away to do, I don't know what is a Pompeii mummy going to do with any woman? But anyway, he carries her into the ocean and he dissolves.
So he literally is supposed to be like the little plaster cast that they made.
Well, you don't see.
Like,
I know that they're made by plaster cast, but I guess the people who made this movie just went to a museum and saw and was like, wow, these people were turned into giant concrete statues. Which is not exactly what happened, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, God.
I got to say, a lot of these movies, they had crazy premises and everything else, but the problem, they could never stick the ending. And you get to some of the endings of these, and you're just like, what? What the hell? Like there's a movie with a crawling arm, an astronaut, he comes back and his arm is detached from him and it's crawling around and causing mischief, although now that I'm saying this out loud, I really can't imagine how. And at the end, you know what happens to the crawling hand, right?
I don't remember, no.
Oh, well,
because I'm thinking
like this way.
One of the various other crawling hand movies.
If the crawling hand were to try to attack you or Shelley while you were sleeping, what might happen to it?
The cats would pick it up and run away with it.
The cats ate that crawling hand. The crawling hand is crawling through a garbage dump, and a bunch of cats who haven't had their friskies for that evening devour it. The end.
I love that.
I was just kidding. That's funny.
Yeah.
Very realistic.
That's like the end. That's like the end of the Incredible Melting Man, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It just melts. Yeah, we didn't lie. If you're wondering how the faceless man, gets up and starts walking around, well, they find him with a bronze medallion around his neck that bears a strange Etruscan inscription. I think the Etruscans, and I may be mispronouncing it, but they've been gone for thousands of years, so whatever. They were like the pre-Romans. They were there before the Romans became Romans. So anytime anything ever went wrong, the Romans would blame the Etruscans,
Those jerks.
Jerks. Thank God. Oh, I had a slide here about the makeup man. So the guy who did the makeup on this. Look at this body of work here. I mean, this is just how many I could just fit on this slide. Superman and the Mole Man. Huh? Glenn or Glenda. The Neanderthal Man. Catwomen on the Moon. Killers from Space, which has the best ping pong ball eyes ever. Invasion USA. Voodoo Woman. The Immortal, Plan 9 from Outer Space. From Hell It Came. The Big Giant Walking Tree. And She Freak. Yeah.
Isn't She Freak like a semi remake of Freaks? Isn't it?
It's a complete ripoff of Freaks, but you can say semi remake if you want to be nice. Sure. That's got the immortal Felix Sela in it. And here's the best story from She Freak. So She Freak is a real low budget crap sleazy movie about this bombshell woman. This actress, she works in a diner and everyone's hitting on her, and she's a freaking Amazon from a Russ Meyer movie, and way too good for everything there, but also a seriously damaged woman. Her name, she was played by Claire Brennan, and seriously, Amazonian, just great. Felix Sela, the late Felix Sela, who I got to interview twice, amazingly. You see, once you do something once, people are like, oh, you're the guy who interviews this guy. I'm like, sure, whatever. He was a delightful man. He was a little person. He was everything from Cousin It. He was one of the penguins in a Batman movie. This guy was in so many franchises. He did so many things. It's hard to, he was in Spaceballs. He was in Ewok. He was in E.T. For one thing, he was really, his size made it, when they had kids, and you can only use kids for a certain number of hours, but, it's going on. And, now if you're John Landis, you just say, forget the rules, send them out there. Drag him out there, Dick Morrow.
The thing is, in his defense, they didn't work the full night.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
Too soon?
Oh.
Even I am offended. Anyway, he was the Manitou. He was the Manitou.
Oh,
he was
that's right. Holy crap.
He probably played a whole lot of the titles of things. He was in The Blackbird. He was wonderful. He was in Lidsville. Really? He was in Puffin Stuff. He was, come on, this guy. He was a child gorilla in Planet of the Apes. This man could go to any convention and never buy a drink for the rest of his life. And after he's fairly odd. We met him at Canuga. Boy, he could drink too. He could drink and put it away. It's a medical miracle. Anyway, back to the story. So She Freak. They're making this low budget movie. Sets are hot and there's a lot of downtime. People are drinking. I am sure that every single heterosexual male on that movie was hitting on Claire Brennan. You know who got her pregnant? Felix the Man Sela. He just walked up there and said his line, whatever it is, and boom.
I'm going to climb you like a jungle gym.
That's a man among men.
God.
What was swinging you around like a jungle gym? Wow.
I'm going to climb you like a jungle gym.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That might have been the line. Because you know what women really like? Confidence. And if you're like 3 feet tall and you're making your play for a woman who is literally twice your size, not a figure of speech, literally twice your size.
Right.
You have got the confidence of Attila Hun.
According to IMDb trivia, which of course is true, they were together for like 9 years.
Oh wow!
Like a jungle gym.
So She Freak was 67? Is that when it was? And she died in 1977. So 9 years with Felix Silva was probably just like
a striking woman. A striking woman who, I'm not saying she was any great shakes, but she was memorable in that. I did not bring this up either time I was with him because I talked a little bit about She Freak and I was waiting to see, and said, I had the wonderful Colleen Brennan, and he agreed she was wonderful, but he didn't go into any details about just how wonderful she was. So I wasn't going to push the issue because, I don't know. Apparently it was a secret affair. Maybe he was married at the time. I don't know.
Oh.
I just want to say, if you're listening from up there in heaven, Mr. Sela, I tip my hat to you. Trying to think if any of these other folks went on to bigger and better things, but I don't know. They'll always have Frankenstein's daughter.
Yes. Oh man, that was great.
Well, you left out like one of the coolest things in it.
Oh, go ahead.
Page Kavanaugh Trio. The Page Kavanaugh Trio had
Oh,
not one but 2 jamming tunes in there.
I cannot get those tunes out of my head.
That part was so funny. Like, oh, Dom, you startled Trixie in a bush, and like, oh, darn you, you're gonna pay for that. I'm gonna drag you out here and make you sing. Oh man, I don't want to sing. 1, 2, 3, go. It was like he was just ready. He just started going. Oh, I loved that so much.
I always like these guys. Like, yeah, I got a little tune here in my head, and apparently the band knows it. Yeah, without ever practicing.
They like right into songs. Perfect.
I know all 3 chords. And they go right into it. And look, it's not the worst rock. It's not like the stuff from Giant Gila Monster. Boy, that's some crap. Although it'll stick with you because they play like the same song like 3 times in that one. At least this one had a little variety.
Is it Recipe for Success? What was that song? What was that from? Oh God.
Which one?
There was a movie that played the one song over and over again. It
Oh,
was like the party cruise and thing that had like Recipe for Success or something.
But your brother-in-law's so oblivious he didn't catch it until you pointed it out. I'm like, oh, the New Year's Eve one, right? Was that the one?
Yes, it was the New Year's Eve one. Yeah. Yeah, those were really long songs, though. It was like a solid 5 minutes.
I don't understand when they do that. It's like, okay, one thing, if the monster's going to break up the party or something, but no, it's just...
It's called padding, Bill.
It is padding. It is padding.
It's like
shit.
Intermission.
Yeah.
There's always the possibility this song is actually going to catch on.
Yeah.
I'd say it was a slim possibility, but yeah. Well, that's it for Frankenstein's Daughter.
Yay!
Yay!
I liked it.
Oh, there's plenty more where that came from.